Hi, I'm Bonnie Kimke. Welcome to my studio. Today I want to continue that Getting to Know Your Frame series that I've been working on. And this edition of that series will be about accessories. As you can accessorize your Cutie frame or your Cutie Breeze frame in so many ways that I won't have any, that I couldn't possibly address. But I'm going to talk about those accessories that are available for purchase and some common accessories that I and or other Cutie and Cutie Breeze owners are using. So this video will cover both the Cutie and the Cutie Breeze, and I will be popping that video in the playlists for the Getting to Know Your Cutie frame and the Getting to Know Your Cutie Breeze frame, so that this video will be easily available to you if you're using the playlists. As you can see, I'm standing in front of my Cutie frame, and the only reason I've chosen to stand in front of my Cutie frame is because I have most of the accessories available here on my Cutie frame. So if I need to show them to you, they're going to be readily accessible. So the first accessory that I'll discuss are the Cutie Legs. The Cutie Legs fit on the Cutie frame itself to allow you to elevate the Cutie frame and make it a permanently standing frame. So I would be remiss in talking about accessories if I didn't tell you how to get around that. And that's actually how this frame is introduced. This frame is introduced as a tabletop frame. So you can put your frame on a table. The benefit of putting your frame on a table is that you still maintain the ability to pick the frame up and put it aside when you're not using it. I, like many of us, have chosen to use the Husky workbench, and that comes in several sizes. The smallest size that you can use to set your Cutie frame or your Cutie Breeze on a Husky table is the 52-inch by 24-inch model. To be honest, any sturdy 4-foot by 2-foot table will do. And that will also work for the Cutie Breeze, although the Cutie Breeze is a little wider than 4 foot. You can allow the side rails to hang off of the side of your table because the weight that is supported on this frame is supported by the front and back tracks. The side rails are just to hold up the front and back rails. They don't bear any weight. The next accessory to discuss is actually a machine accessory, but it makes using the frame much easier. And that is a speed control. If your machine does not come with its own regulation system or an easily accessible speed control where you can set the speed, then this is probably something you'll want to look into. Now, you can ride your machine using your foot pedal if your foot pedal's cord is long enough that you can use it. If the cord is not long enough, then you have to get an extension. And those are available for some machines through the Grace company. I'm not going to discuss those extension cords because they're so diverse and it's machine dependent. But I will discuss the speed control. The speed control is available only with a subset of domestic machines, and the speed control has to be bought for the specific set of machines that you're using. So, for instance, a speed control that is specifically made for a FAF machine is not going to work on a Brother machine. So you get that. There's several versions of the speed control out, and they are machine specific. Now, the speed control, as I alluded to, but let me state it unequivocally, the speed control will replace your foot pedal and controls the speed of the machine. So if you are using the speed control and you have a slide dial for your speed, don't be using both at the same time. set your speed dial, set your speed control to work with that speed, and then every time you use the machine, use the same speed control on your machine and the speed control setup on your speed control device. Very similar to the speed control with a lot more capabilities is the SURESTITCH Elite. And this is also a machine accessory. This also replaces the foot pedal, but in addition to controlling the speed of your machine, the SURESTITCH Elite controls also your stitch length, and it will have further functionality such as edge warning, and there's a ruler functionality, but it also will warn you if you're traveling too fast for the speed that is set up on your SURESTITCH Elite. And to be honest, there's no real workaround for the speed control and the SURESTITCH Elite other than using your foot pedal and learning to control your movement with the speed that you're using on your machine. Now, I started out on the Jazz 2, and at the time there was no speed control that would work with the Jazz 2, and there was no SURESTITCH or SURESTITCH Elite that would work with the Jazz 2, and I did just fine. But it took getting used to what the stitches looked like based on how fast I was traveling with my machine and how much pressure I was putting on my foot pedal. So it's doable, but many people would prefer to have some sort of a hand control. The next accessory that I'm going to talk about gets a lot of attention, and that's the leader cloths. So when I first got my Cutie and popped my Jazz 2 on the frame, I did not realize that the Grace company had leader cloths available. So I made my own. But the leader cloths are available. What the leader cloths do for you is allow you to use less backing, and so you put your leader cloth on the back rail and on the front rail when it gets to that point. So you start your leader cloth on the rail and you pin your quilt body to the edge of the leader cloth. And so as you're moving, you move off of the leader cloth and onto your quilt body more and more and more. When you get to the end of your quilt body, then the leader cloth that's at the bottom of your quilt allows you to move the quilt further into the frame area where you can work on it. So it allows you to use a lot less material when you're using the leader cloths. You do not need leader cloths. You can put 6 to 10 inches of extra backing on the top and the bottom of your quilt body, and you will never miss the leader cloths. You'll be fine. So the workaround is to use a lot more backing or to make your own leader cloths. Now the next accessory to talk about are the bungee clamps. What the bungee clamps do is the bungee clamps will attach to the clips that came with your machine, with your frame, and you use those then to clip the bungee clamps to the side clips of your frame, and then clip the bungee clamps themselves onto the backing of your quilt body, and that helps you to get a consistent and accurate tension on the quilt body. And that's going to equate to a much more smooth operation of your machine from side to side. Now, the workaround for bungee clamps, if you don't want to spend the money to buy the bungee clamps, is to just take a piece of material, wrap it around, a longer piece of material, wrap it around your side rail and pin it to your backing to hold the quilt body steady in your frame. Now, you can also make your own bungee clamps, and many people do. They go down and they buy clips, and they buy the elastics, and they buy the little bulb locks that lock the, they buy the little bulb locks that lock your elastic in place by depressing that button and moving it around. You know, so you can make your own. Personally, I got a hold of the bungee clamps right away, and I'm very happy that I did. However, those two workarounds, make your own or use side cloth leaders, they work fine. The next accessory is the Grace laser. Now the Grace laser attaches to the front or the back of the Cutie frame or the Cutie Breeze frames upper carriage. So it attaches either to the front or the back of the other upper carriage, or in the case of the Cutie Breeze, it can attach to the upright bar that holds the back handles and the rear handles. And the purpose of the laser is to be able to trace pantographs. And so you would work on this from the rear of your machine generally. However, a lot of people do find a way to do pantographs from the front of their machine. Now, the workaround to purchasing the Grace laser is a pen light and some Velcro, and find a way to Velcro that onto your machine or onto your carriage. The nice thing that I want to mention about the Grace laser is it's battery powered, so you don't have a lot of extra cords hanging around on your system. You can't talk about the Grace laser without talking about the Cutie laser stylus. So if you have a Cutie machine, then there is the Grace Cutie laser stylus that is also, this is a machine accessory in this instance, and that attaches to either the Cutie handles, either the front or the rear handles, or it attaches between the wheels of your Cutie machine. We use this laser just the same as we do the Grace laser. We're using it to trace pantographs, but the key thing to note is that the Cutie laser stylus will plug into and be powered by your machine. And so there are some wires that you'll have to find a way to manage and keep them out from under your wheels. So the next accessory is the channel locks. Now, the channel locks are not yet available for the Cutie Breeze, but I do believe they are being worked upon right now. The channel locks are very specific to the frame and carriage, the carriage of the frame. So the channel locks for the Cutie frame will work whether you have a domestic and are riding on the upper carriage, or you have a Cutie machine. So it comes in a set of 3. There's one for the lower carriage and one for the upper carriage, or you will use the one that is made for the Cutie machines. And they are used to lock your machine in place horizontally and or vertically. And that makes it very easy then to quilt in a straight line, or I often use it for this. If I'm doing some maintenance on my machine, I will lock that channel in place. My machine's not going to move on me, not going to get bumped and move on me. And if your machine's not balanced, it's not going to roll. When I first started out and I had the Jazz 2 and they did not yet have the channel locks for the Cutie, I did use some aftermarket channel locks that I got from my baby lock dealer, and they clip around the wheels. Let me tell you right now, nothing works as well as the channel locks that literally push down and stop you on that track. The baby lock channel locks that I had, which are the same as the handy quilter and whatnot, they are made to go over larger wheels. So they don't work very well at all on our small wheels, and you have to finagle them quite a bit. So this is the one accessory that I advise you to get. If you're thinking about the channel locks at all, don't worry about the workaround. Buy the channel locks for your frame. This accessory really has me excited. There is now a Cutie Quilt Clip Upgrade Kit. Now it is not for the Cutie Breeze because you don't need it. You have this clipping system. But for the Cutie Original, you can upgrade to the clip and coil system that is on the Cutie Breeze. So you can keep your original Cutie and get rid of the elastics in a safe and Grace approved manner by buying this upgrade kit. And it's really reasonable. And what that upgrade kit will be is 3 clips and 3 coils. And the coils and clips work best, in my opinion, and I think in many people's opinion, if you have the coil only on the outside, because the coil does take up some of your throat space. And so a lot of times, and it happens with me, I bump into that coil when I get to the back, and so I'm constantly having to adjust the coil. Well, for me, that would be more annoying than the elastics. So when I'm using my Cutie Breeze, the coil's on the outermost sides of my outer rail where I'm not going to have to quilt into. But this is a pretty exciting one. And I do understand that eventually the upper carriage will be made available to purchase separately, and you'd be able to use the upper carriage of the Cutie Breeze on your original Cutie. Now, I've only heard that that's a rumor that it's going to be available. It's not yet available, but I'd keep my eye out for that one. Very last purchasable accessory that I want to talk about is the Luminous lighting system, and I recently got this down in Daytona. So it's a lighting system that will fit over your frame and give you really ideal, optimal lighting for all of your work. But is not in everyone's budget for some lighting. So the workaround for that, and it's what I've been using for 3 years, is good lighting that I purchased elsewhere. Any good lighting is going to be fine for your frame system. What I do not recommend is just using your household overhead lights that are set back and they're over here. So you want something that's over your work area to give you the best possible lighting. And what I would recommend is something over 5,000 kelvins. Now, kelvins are actually a measurement of the warmth of the light that is dispersed. Has nothing to do with the lumens, the wattage, the LED power. Has nothing to do with that. Kelvins are a totally separate thing. You could almost think of kelvins as a degree of soft white, bright white, daylight, but it goes beyond what soft white, daylight, and bright light will tell you. The Luminous lights are somewhere in the range of 6,600 kelvins. And each one of these lights, each one of these individual bulbs is 6,600 and some change kelvins. And that shade helps to disperse the light so that it comes down in the right direction and in the right density or temperature of light. So now I want to talk about some accessories that are not available through Grace, but accessories that I find really useful. And you'll notice that on the both the front and the back rail, I have this yellow ruler tape. This tape is a 3M type, washi type tape, and I buy it at Hobby Lobby and on Amazon. And it's just a ruler tape, and it sticks, it's self-sticking, and it goes from 1 inch to 12 inches, so it's in foot-long increments. And so I go from the center of my rails out. So 1 to 12, and then start back over 12 to 1. I use it as a continuous strip. I do it on the other side. At that point, I have to turn it upside down because the strip only reads in one direction. And I do that on both the front and the back. And what the purpose of this tape system is for is that if I have something that's 12 inches and 3 inches deep, so 15 inches deep on each side, so a 30-inch quilt, I put the center over the center mark, and I come over here to the 3 after the first 12. That 3 is lined up from on the back, and so then I can line up my quilt straight on the frame. In addition to that tape, I have made a couple of these, and I have them on all my frames and pretty much on all my machines. I have these bags of weighted material. It can be beans, it can be rice, it can be, in my case, seed beads. But what it is it's a loosely packed, probably 2 inches wide by 11 inches long, and it just drapes over my frame to hold my quilt body in place as I'm hooping. And you've seen this in several of my videos. If you've been watching any of my videos, you see that. And I do that a lot. And those are very helpful to me. I love them. Another thing that I like to use and pretty much stays around my frames at all time are either a dowel, a long ruler, or in my case, these are packing corners. They come on appliances that I had delivered. What I do with these is when I'm using the bungee clamps, I put these over close to the edge, kind of hooked up over the side rail, and the bungee clamp elastic comes over these. So I put them under the bungee clamp elastic, and that holds the bungee clamp up in the air, so it's less likely to hit my ruler table. Now, if you're not using a ruler table and it's not on your machine at all times, you may not need these. I know that's been a lot to take in, and I usually try to keep my videos much shorter, but this is helpful information for those of you who are new to the frame and are interested in what the accessories are and what they do. I want to thank you for joining me here on Quilting on a Thread, and hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.